everybody. Welcome to InPsightRadio. I'm your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. How is everybody this week? Wow. I tell you, with this Aries full moon, this has really been just piling in all this energy. And actually, the full moon was a bit ago. It was on September 24th. And it came right after our solstice. So to have all those energies coming in at one time, that was a lot of energy. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was feeling it like crazy. I'm still feeling it. I'm still feeling all of that energy that came in. And I am so fascinated to see how that energy is manifesting itself in the world. We do have some serious manifestations happening right now, and I can't get enough of what's going on in the news, because usually I don't watch the news, and I'm actually not a news junkie. Yet I'm fascinated by this Kavanaugh thing. And I'm fascinated by it, not even as much from a political perspective, but from a consciousness perspective. We now have senators who are coming forward trying to make all of the allegations against Kavanaugh sound like they're not even a big deal. Here comes one woman who's very credible and says this is what he did. And they said, "Oh, you're drunk. You didn't remember correctly." Then another woman comes out and they're like, "Oh, well, you're not credible." Then another woman comes out. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And obviously, these women have a bone to pick with this guy. Neil Gorsuch didn't have people coming out of the woodwork to say, "Oh, he hung his junk in my face and he wants to be a Supreme Court judge." It's fascinating. So what we're talking about today is we are talking about the energy of denial and, the emperor's new clothes syndrome that we are in, not just as our country, but really in the world. Now, it really gets kind of dicey to talk about this stuff because so many people really associate these consciousness issues with politics. It's something to remember that politics are simply an observing standpoint or a lens for society. And whatever's going on within ourselves in the world, in the United States, we're going to see actually reflected on a political level. So what's so fascinating to me about this whole Kavanaugh thing is that these women are coming out of the woodwork going, "Look, this guy was a creeper. He was into group rape. He was into hanging his junk in your face when he was a younger person. And I don't think that's cool that person should sit on our highest court in the land." And then you have people coming out saying, well, geez, he was just a kid. Come on. We all do stupid things when we are kids. Except for the fact that this, again, is about the consciousness of dismissal. It's about dismissal. And I am just struck in observation right now, looking at our country and looking at how so many fellas are up in arms about this. And even some women saying that this is a calculated attack. It's a political thing. None of this ever happened. This is about not killing or killing babies. Yet if it was... Okay, let me put it to you this way. If we had a woman who was a conservative, who was being appointed to the Supreme Court or was being considered, and somebody from this woman's background came forward and said, "You know something, when she was in college, she was kind of a wild card. And as a matter of fact, she ran a sex ring and she basically was a madam and she charged people to have sex with her. It's how she made extra money in college and in high school. But now she's a mother of 5 and she's, reformed her life or whatever. Do you know there is no way in God's green heaven or hell that woman would have a chance at getting onto the Supreme Court? They would come forward, the powers that be, and they would say, "Oh, well, prostitution is a crime and you can't do that." Even if she was never convicted, even if this was something that was never even brought forward, if it was hearsay, they would say, "By God, that woman was a prostitute and there is no way, I don't care who she is now, but there's no way we can let somebody on the Supreme Court who may have committed a crime." Now, sexual assault is a crime, okay? And pinning people down and trying to date rape them, crime. So I'm finding it fascinating that now obviously I created the completely fictitious little realm here of the supposed Supreme Court judge who maybe was a hooker in college. Yet I created that because if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to that going, oh yeah, that would totally happen. I mean, Hillary Clinton, whether you like her or not, every single mole on that woman's face was considered a crime. So the double standard that we have, that here could be Kavanaugh and oh my gosh, he just did something when he was younger and it doesn't matter and who cares? Yet let's pick apart our women. This is the consciousness issue that the feminine time frame is asking us to come forward with. Now listen, fellas, I'm not picking on you guys, okay? If the roles were reversed, if we women were getting a get out of jail free card every second, every moment, and you fellas came forward with all of this injustice, and we were in the divine masculine section of the time frame, this same thing would be happening to women. Okay? Except that's not what's happening, and that's not where we've come from. So when we see this on the news, obviously, I'll tell you, guys, Kavanaugh did all this stuff. He did. I looked out into the ethers. It was shown to me that when he was a young person, he'd drink too much and he did all kinds of stuff. Now, people are saying, why does that matter? Because that was such a long time ago. Well, it matters because the job he's applying for happens to be setting laws. So if he was someone, even as a younger person, who was regularly pushing laws and trying to break laws, then that shows a discernment issue. Now, look, I did some pretty jackass stuff when I was a young person. I can tell you with all full account, I was never trying to rape anybody. I didn't, steal anything. I did stupid stuff. I did ridiculous things. Yet I wasn't pushing the law, and I also wasn't victimizing people. And when you're dealing with a court situation, I mean, you literally are dealing at that point with the consciousness that upholds law. So again, it's so funny. I think it was it Flake? One of the senators, I'm not even sure, said, well, I'm not a clairvoyant and I'm not a psychic, so I can't look back and tell you what happened. Well, I can. I mean, the guy obviously did what he did. And I don't think you need to be a psychic to know that. So really, the overarching issue here is not about Kavanaugh. It's about why are we so fiercely defending this weird denial consciousness? I mean, this is going so far as to have some of our top government officials who are public servants trying to act like sexual assault is not a big deal. They're like, well, this, he could have done worse things, or this could have been worse, or well, nothing really actually happened. I mean, the desperation for the imbalanced portion of absolute dominant control, which at this time in our history is showing itself through the masculine, it's showing itself through the patriarchal, okay? The imbalanced form of the patriarchal, the divine patriarchal, is awesome. It's a provider. However, this isn't divine, and we're way out of balance, and obviously we're in the feminine time frame. So showing a spotlight on this get out of jail free card for behaviors that require excusing victimization, none of this is going to fly. Okay, so if they happen to arrest a woman who was holding children in her basement and doing horrible things to them, well, she's going to get the great big grill as far as the press goes as well. So this is not gender specific. It's just that guys, and I know this is hard. We've got so many incredible guys out there, and I'm so sorry that the really cool dudes out there have to go through this time period right now because we're burning off that portion of the masculine that oppressed, bullied, victimized, and quite frankly, was allowed to societally. There's a reason that these fellas acted like that, gang. They acted like that because it was okay to act like that. So, I mean, it's important to recognize that it was basically culturally okay to date rape somebody because it was just considered a good old boy kind of thing, and boys will be boys and all those things. So again, for all of our divine masculine fellas out there, you might just have to take a big breath and roll your eyes and say, oh my God, I can't wait till we get this junk out of here. Yet, obviously, fellas, we're not saying all men are problems, all masculinity are problems. Simply the denial consciousness and the victimizing consciousness, which has really deeply seated itself in the masculine. Now, it's also deeply seated itself in the feminine. How many women are coming forward with this? And they're saying, well, what's her problem? Why didn't she come out years ago? Women, we're taught to shame each other. We're taught to hate each other. That consciousness, again, is awesome Stockholm syndrome. Let us worship the victimizer here. So if you look at the way that we are shedding off a very damaged consciousness in our nation, it's happening at breakneck pace. And to a degree, I'm looking at all these senators who are trying to act like this is not a big deal. And I'm cracking up because it's literally like watching a group of older dudes wandering around in their Fruit of the Looms, congratulating each other on their fine silk suits. This is the level of denial and the level of the fear of the loss of control that we're seeing in this particular energy signature. Now, again, all my great fellas listening, I have so much empathy for you guys, for our divine masculine guys that are showing up in this feminine time frame to really, really work on and help us get through some of this garbage that we've been in. Fellas, I'm sorry that you've kind of got to deal with some of this stuff, because you're not the guys that are out there trying to date rape people. Now, obviously, fellas, your holding of the space at the divine masculine helps dissolve this super weird denial-ridden consciousness that might is right and we can do whatever we want. And it's really harsh. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff flare up on Facebook. And I actually have been on Facebook more than normal because I've been having so much fun on my Ascension tour, and I want to get out there and post pictures, and I want to post experiences. So I'm actually, on Facebook, and I'm listening to what people are talking about and commenting on for the tour. So I'm also seeing all kinds of topics, and it is shocking to me when I see women just claiming that these other women are crying wolf and it's a big political thing. And I'm thinking, you guys, why would these women go out there and ruin their lives and get death threats over politics? Come on, girls. We know that we don't weigh in that hard. We know that we're not that invested. Nobody wants death threats to your kids, ladies. Come on. So the fact that we have to try to create these myths of denial around something that's just honestly happening. Like, hey, there's this dude who's getting nominated for the position of the highest court in the land, and this guy was pretty much a rapist. I don't think that that's probably the best temperament to have on this court. And to have people say, well, he was drunk, well, he was this, well, he was that. You cannot have a criminal background and serve as a judge. Now, no one pressed charges. None of these women came forward. This is all at this point hearsay. Except if you look at our time frame, who on earth in this political culture, in this fired up, polarized society, wants to come forward and say, oh yeah, I was the lady who was victimized by this dude? Nobody wants to do that, because in that case, you're setting yourself up with some serious toe-the-line crazies out there that, as we've seen, issue death threats. Now, we've got toe-the-line crazies everywhere. Kavanaugh and his wife are getting death threats. That's obviously not the way to solve this issue, to say we're going to kill you. Yet, it's gotten so heated because people are sick and tired of the lies, of the denial, and of the emperor's new clothes. And it's tough because there are people out there, gang, whose entire lives are built on a system of illusion. Okay, and it's really important we talk about this, because for somebody like me who is wired to just see through the ethers and see those particular energy signatures, and do I think Kavanaugh's a bad person? No. Do I think he's got it together at this point in his life? Well, he certainly does, more than he was when he was having, problems trying to rape people as a younger person. Yet, do I think that somebody who actually has had that past, should be appointed to the court of law that's the highest upholding court in the land? And No, maybe if he'd say, well, God, I don't know. I was drunk. I did stupid stuff when I was a kid. I don't know. But he's not going to say that because this is the job he wants. And he's got a wife and kids. And who says that? I mean, come on. I mean, we have all done some pretty appalling stuff that probably if it got drug out there, we would really, if we didn't have to, we wouldn't want to admit it. Especially somebody who's getting nominated as a Supreme Court judge. Yet Kavanaugh is not going to get a get out of jail free card on this one, nor is any one of us that want to pretend that we just didn't do something, because that stuff comes back on you. And especially if there was any sort of victimization, that really comes back on you. So that's a feminine time frame issue, gang. And so, again, this isn't about politics. It's not about whether I think Kavanaugh's a good or bad person. It's not about that. It's about we are seeing this all play out right now where that type of victimizing energy is going nowhere. It's just going nowhere. And we are seeing such a desperation from the people whose lives are dependent upon people allowing them to be the most powerful person they know. Those people are freaking the frick out. Like these senators, and a lot of them, and again, I am a white female, so I'm not trying to just bang on the white male. I mean, I'm sure you white guys are probably pretty sick of that. Yet that being said, the consciousness that has allowed one particular demographic to get a consciousness pass, while the rest of us have had a whole different set of rules, the fact that that consciousness is now throwing a fit and pouting and freaking out and saying, no, that's not the way it is. That's not the way it is. I feel badly for those folks. I actually do. Because that is not the real world. That is the bubble they've been living in. Some of these 80-year-old fellas or these 75-year-old white fellas from the South, that is the bubble they've been in that says you get to do whatever you want and we'll let you. So I want everybody for a minute. We're going to exercise our compassion here, okay? Because this is the only way we get through this feminine time frame, especially this Kavanaugh thing, especially what's going to go down here in a couple months, without rioting and without a civil war. We're going to exercise compassion. So for you ladies out there, I want you to pretend that you can be as rotten and mean as you want to anybody, and the crappier and meaner and snarkier and slicker you are in business, and the more people you screw over in business, I want you to actually feel what that feels like to be thought of as a genius, okay? Because this is what's been going on for, especially in the good old boy system. The more rotten you are, the tougher, the more sociopathic, the more terrible, the more victimizing you are, the more of a genius and a powerful person you're thought of. So ladies, think about your worst PMS day that you've ever had, and you just rip off, and we've all been there, girls, okay? And it might not be a PMS. It might be menopause. It might be we're sick of the crap that we as women are supposed to be dealing with, and we just snap. And think about when that fire hose of crap comes out your mouth, and we've all been there. God knows I have in my youth, Lord. And it's terrible, and you say the most mean things possible. Ladies, you know how generally later you feel terrified that you did that? That feeling of, oh my God, oh no, what's going to come back on me? Who's going to hate me? Who's going to ostracize me? Who's going to call me a bitch? I need to make everything fine. I need to smooth it over. I was a bad girl. Come on, girls, we do this. Now, for the most part, and fellas, obviously there's beautiful fellas listening to this podcast. And obviously, if you're not one of these guys, I'm not talking to you. Okay. So just know that we love you, man. Yet for a lot of men, that same outburst, ladies, that you had, that you just screamed and threw things and freaked out and whatever, boy, people see you as tough. They see you as the real deal. They see you as somebody not to cross. Boy, that's somebody that, they might think you're an a-hole, but there's somebody, boy, that means that you really know your stuff. So ladies, can you imagine having that same blow up that makes you feel like you want to kill yourself afterwards because you're so freaked out that everybody saw you're ugly fly in the wind? Can you imagine what it would feel like if that felt powerful to you? And if society came back to you and said, whoa, God, she's the biggest bitch in here. That's awesome. We need to back her because she's just a fierce, awful, raging, angry, put a terrible word I'm not going to use in here. Girls, can you even put that in your circuitry? Actually, I can't. I don't have the ability, because of how I was raised, because of how we socialize our women, I cannot equivocate that kind of besting another person and being horrible and being seen by other women as amazing and strong. Like, I can't even put it together in my head. Now, guys, I know that there's those a-hole guys that you all want to just push in the mud and say, oh my God, this is ridiculous. He needs to shut up. Yet if we look at, we're talking about how society has been enculturated here in a consciousness of victimization, okay? Because what we're really talking about on today's show is denial, the emperor's new clothes, and how to come out of being in that denial about where our consciousness is sitting right now. You know, when we look at these fellas that are, you know, from the old world, they were socialized in the old world, 75, 85 years old, maybe 70, maybe they're a baby boomer. You know, they are products of what they were told was powerful and what they were quite honestly encouraged to do. And of course, a lot of these fellas were encouraged to say it in a gentlemanly way, but the stabbing in the back and the besting of each other and the denial that was going on, the denial that they were wounding themselves, the denial that they were wounding one another was part of that consciousness, okay? So now let's speed forward to Kavanaugh. And here's a guy, in his 50s? Okay, so he's not that much older than me. I'm going to be 50, I'm 49. So here's a dude who is, I'm guessing he's in his 50s. I actually don't know how old Kavanaugh is. However, maybe he just looks like he's in his 50s because times have been tough for him lately. I don't know. Yet, when we want to condemn him and we want to say, God, he's a piece of crap, and look, here's another white man in power, blah, blah. Let's really try not to do that. Let's try not to completely stereotype here, because there are reasons that people act the way they act, okay? And who knows what this guy's story is. Look, I am not saying it's okay to try to sexually victimize anybody or victimize anybody, period. I'm simply saying that if I'm a dude and I am being enculturated to be the most powerful, victimizing, blah, 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 and that means I'm tough, and that means people won't hurt me. That means other alpha males won't hurt me. So I'm too scared to go after the alpha male, so I go after the females to show them how tough I am. I mean, that I don't know that shows the greatest amount of character there. And even in a young person, if we've got to resort to victimizing other people to show others how cool and tough we are, that means we're not really tough and we're not really cool. So when we're looking at all of this, again, I'm not making excuses one bit especially for Kavanaugh's behavior. What I'm saying is there are huge issues in the denial with how we have treated one another, and it started coming about with the racial issues. Now it's bleeding over into women. It's part of the feminine time frame. And it's not like we've got it out for, white men and society, please. If all of a sudden we start running white men up the flagpole, then we become the oppressors, and that's not the point here. The point is to step back, look at the energies, be honest about these energies, assess what we've got going on, and then move forward. That's the entire point. So what we're going to see with Kavanaugh is I've got 5 timelines here with Kavanaugh. And 3 of these timelines have whomever is wanting to nominate him, whether it's the president or the Republican Party, has them pulling him out at the 11th and 9/10 hour. Because there is just too much explosive feedback from churches, from constituents, and it doesn't work out. There are 2 timelines here where they really are trying to prove to everyone that they are still on top of everything. And again, this is not about politics. It's about power. They're still trying to show everybody that they can put whoever they want in power, and the United States is just going to have to like it, and they shove Kavanaugh through. Now, in those 2 timelines, I'm, again, really happy that those are minority timelines, because if that were to happen, and again, we've only got 2 of those, we are looking at some ugly stuff, America. We are looking at not just protests. We're looking at riots. We're looking at defacing of federal properties. Now, is that right? No, it's not right. Yet what it says is people are sick and tired of a principle winning out over people. And for certain people, this is all about, Roe versus Wade. For other people, it's about bringing America back to what they think America should be. Yet when we really step back off of this, come on, don't you think it's a little weird that of all of our conservative judges, and there's a lot of really good judges out there who are conservative. I mean, they're not politically on fire. They're more like Kennedy, who oddly retired at such an odd time. Boy, that's something else too. Justice Kennedy, who stepped down. And you know what? And again, this is just me looking through the ethers and talk about somebody who got a lot of pressure put on him. Also knowing that there were going to be all kinds of things the Supreme Court were going to have to look into, especially with this Russia investigation and Roe versus Wade. So between all the horrible pressure that was put on Kennedy and his family, and again, this is stuff coming through the psychic ethers here. This isn't reported in the news. This is just what I personally am seeing through the ethers. When you're being so strongly, what's the word I'm looking for? Persuaded or pushed to retire. And you're also of an age where you're looking forward and you're seeing an absolute crap show coming up with impeachments and with indictments and with having to establish a new rule of government on what to do when your entire executive branch is put into place by a foreign power. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff there that I see Kennedy was looking at going, oh my God, that's coming down the pike, and there's no way that I want to deal with that. There's nothing in that that says, hey, I'm almost to the end of my time. Let's deal with that. And again, I can't stress enough all the strong persuasion he got to step down. So between all of that, you put your hands in the air and say, I'm good. I don't want to do this anymore. Well, then you get Neil Gorsuch, whatever. He's pretty conservative. But then you get Kavanaugh. And what's weird is that Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, again, are kind of from the same group of academics. They're from the same realm. They're not representing a very diverse bench. And what I'm just fascinated by, gang, is the desperation around Kavanaugh. This poor man. Actually, I do kind of feel bad for him, I have to be honest, because he naively went into this position. He is someone who would not stand up for removing an executive branch level person. That's why they're trying to push him in, is if they ever do get to impeachment proceedings and want to go that direction and it goes to the courts, he is not prone to lean that way. So they know that they've got a judge who will back a presidential administration that's going to get popped for noodling with a foreign entity in our election. And they're pushing so hard to get the guy in. So here's this dude having every single rotten thing ever drug up that he ever did when he was 17 to 20 or however old he was. I don't even know. And he's having to face those consequences right now because the time frame of the feminine's greatest currency is authenticity. So here's this dude who's been living in this bubble. You know how we were talking about the bubble? We'll call it a particular somewhat white guy bubble that some white guys get to live in. Now, not all white guys get to live in that bubble. I know a lot of white men that work their butts off at incredibly difficult jobs, are not handed prep school situations, and are the divine masculine and stand in the gap for their ladies and for their children. So, to say, oh, all white men, blah, we've got to not go there, America. Let's not go there. There is a particular group of people who, because of their financial really background, are given a pass because money is a particular consciousness. Buying your way through school is a consciousness. Buying your way into prep schools and being part of that consciousness that lives with a different set of rules, that's a whole different set of spiritual lessons, okay? And what we choose to do with those lessons is ours. So I'm certainly not demonizing folks who have those amazing opportunities in their life. I'm simply saying that when you look at this guy, when you look at Kavanaugh, he was in a bubble, and his bubble has been summarily popped by the feminine time frame. So, all the tricks he's pulling out of his can there to say, I didn't do it. I absolutely categorically deny all of this. I will tell you, when he was a younger person doing all this, when I look back in time, that guy was so drunk. And I am not saying that it is an excuse. I mean, if I'm drunk and I go rob a bank, I'm still going to go to jail. They don't care that I was drunk. Yet when I look at this, there was such that kind of drunk you get when you just have this violent disconnect. Yet he got himself into that state on a fairly regular basis when he was a younger person. So, there is that. I can see extreme alcohol usage during all of this. Yet, again, there's a school of thought that believes that drugs or alcohol just dislodge what's in there. Now, I don't know if that's true or not for Kavanaugh. Yet, again, if I were to rob a bank and I'm drunk, they don't care. I'm still going to prison because I robbed the bank. Didn't matter if I was drunk when I did it. So what we have an opportunity to see here is the level and layer of denial that's being laid down in our nation to protect a consciousness that is only actually executed by a very small percentage of people in the United States. There's a very small percentage, if you want to call them, of those, quote, white males that actually have that type of range and privilege because of family stature and because of financial attributes. So think about this. We've been running a country basing two different sets of rules, which have trickled down to affect our consciousness in victimization to everybody, off of a tiny little percentage of people's needs and a tiny little percentage of people's bubble they've been in. So, and again, when we're dealing with spirituality, that bubble they're in is there for a reason. It's there to assist us in viewing consciousness. Because does that really give us a right? If I'm a very wealthy woman and I want to do really horrible things and my money gets me off the hook, is that right? Well, no, it's not. Except we do have a very different judicial system for people who have means and people who don't. For people who have pigment in their skin and people who don't hardly have any pigment in their skin. We have a different set of means to judge those folks by through the law. And that's just the reality of it. And this is what the feminine time frame is stepping in to go, okay, now. Because moms, yes, I'm sure parents all secretly have a favorite child. But mom, don't you love all your kids? Don't you love them all equally, even your problem ones? And sometimes you love your problem kids the most because they need the most work. The feminine time frame is coming in and saying, if you're brown, if you're blue, if you're black, if you're white, I love you the same. If you are a man or a woman or a non-binary person, I love you just the same. And what? Are we watching the fireworks fly for those who have been given an exoneration in who they are through the energies and through the participation of our society? We've exonerated those, just put them on our shoulders and march them around, who are wealthy, who victimize, who can get away with stuff. This is supposed to, in the old world, that meant power. In the new world, that means fear. It means weakness. It means we are victimizing other people because we're not sure who to really be if we're not acting out an archetype. So this is what we're really seeing when we look at Kavanaugh. This is what we're actually seeing. We're seeing this dude who's taken one for the team on the spiritual learning curve, showing people what it looks like to adhere to a denial system. And, hey, it could actually be true. I'm not kidding. When I look back at Kavanaugh, he was drunk as a skunk during all this stuff. Maybe he blacked out. Who knows? Maybe he's not lying. Maybe he truly doesn't remember all this stuff. Yet it does. Again, if I were to rob a bank and I was blacked out, they're still going to send me to prison. And if 9 people saw me rob the bank, even if I was blacked out, I still did it. So it's important that we recognize that the action is not separable from the memory of the action. And really, quite honestly, the feminine time frame would handle Kavanaugh so much more gently if he were to come forward and say, I actually don't remember doing any of this, but I partied like crazy as a younger person. And I struggled with alcohol as a younger person. And if there are women coming forward that said I did this, I have zero recollection of it. Yet if these women are actually coming forward to say I did this, then we need to take a look at that, because there is no reason for these women to throw their lives away or to attack me publicly. I don't even remember half of them. So let's hear them, because if I did this, then I need to not sit on this bench. If I did this, I don't remember doing this. But if I did this, then I am not fit for this. Man, the feminine time frame would be hugging him. They'd be lifting that guy up. They would be working with him and saying, you know what? That was something that happened there. Look at this accountability. This is what we need in a judge. This is the kind of judgment that we need. That's the kind of accountability and ownership in the feminine time frame that transforms situations. Yet we're still watching the old world die off. And with that old world dying off, we are watching people categorize themselves as far as whether they are believing Kavanaugh or not believing Kavanaugh. We are watching people actually align with a particular consciousness, really. And it's important that we don't judge whomever is doing whatever, because all of these different actions that we see right now, they have a reaction, they have a purpose. So like I said, I got 3 timelines where the powers that be pull Kavanaugh off and say, we're just going to pull your nomination. And I've got 2 where they push it through, trying to uphold this illusion that nothing has changed. That's going to be fairly disastrous. So I am really, really hoping, come on, ethers, we've got about a 60-40 split here, 60 with them pulling him out, 40% with us peddling this consciousness of, well, there's nothing to see here. And there will be something huge to see there, because what I'm hoping for is that the consciousness of the old world that goes into the denial and the victimization and the different rule sets for different people, that consciousness isn't going to work. And I know I say this all the time, gang, but it's not going to work when we're all trying to work toward clean water, when we're trying to work toward clean air, okay? The consciousness of, well, I've got enough money to buy myself a bunker. Okay, we'll go for it. Yet the earth is going to continue going on. And there's many billions of us are going to continue living. And money is not going to save us at the end of the day. Our willingness to admit our weaknesses, our willingness to come forward with things that we've done that we're not proud of, that cause shame, that we're embarrassed of, that we seek healing on, our willingness to model leadership by being a true leader, not I didn't do it, but being somebody to say, God, I don't even remember doing that. But if all these women are coming forward, I must have done that. And I did have a drinking issue. So let's look at this. And for somebody to put their country before their own ambition, to be able to say, you know, I don't remember doing this. I think I'm an excellent judge. Yet if I get appointed to the bench under all this controversy, I'm going to bring controversy to the bench. And that's not good for our judicial system. That's not good for the trust of the nation. To truly be a leader, gang, in the feminine time frame, looking out for number 1 is out the freaking window, okay? It is looking out for the collective all. And you can look out for number 1, yet you're looking out for number 1 had best be rooted in authenticity, in learning lessons, and in coming clean. So when I look at this situation, I am so just gobsmacked fascinated, again, by all the government officials who are trying to make this now not a big deal. Because people keep coming out of the woodwork, so they have to decide, well, who cares if he's naked? Naked's good. Who cares? Well, the society cares. Decency cares. And it's really, let's play devil's advocate for just a second. Let's say Kavanaugh didn't do any of these things. This is a total, we're going to lift a page from the conspiratist handbook here. There are people out there who believe, I mean, with everything in their soul, they believe that the Democratic Party has put up these women to go and lie and to create a witch hunt just so we can get a liberal judge in and so we can control politics. They actually believe that. They believe there's enough money in the world for some woman to get out there and be bought off and say she did something and survive the death threats to her family, her credibility as a doctor. I mean, there's actually people who believe this. You know why? Because if what's true is just true, because it's true, that Kavanaugh was this person when he was young, then what does that say about every time they look the other way when, say, their uncle molested a cousin? Or what does that say about them every time they allowed someone in their family to be victimized? Or what does that say about them when they could have stood in the gap for somebody else, but they told themselves that they deserved it, it was their place? What does that say about them? We are so busy projecting our own guilt and shame into these situations. Instead of looking at shame as an outmoded teacher, it has no place. Shame has no place in the new world. And I know that's really hard. You know, we want people to be ashamed of themselves so they learn something. Gang, in the feminine time frame, we are being asked to help people heal their wounds. Like, I don't know any of us who haven't done something just stinking terrible that we're completely ashamed of. I mean, unbelievably ashamed of, especially in our youth when we're trying things and trying to get away with stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of us that are. Yet if you're going to choose a job that vets you to represent law, then, hey, a lot of those stupid choices, they're going to come back around on you. Most of us aren't trying to be president. Most of us, which actually, by the way, I would love to be president of the United States. I would absolutely love that job. I would love it. I would love to be president because the one job that the president actually has, the only one job, is to inspire people and to truly stand for something bigger than themselves. And that I could totally do. I mean, I don't have an egomaniac complex. So, you know, whatever my legacy would be or whatever, United States, we build legacies together. We, the people, are the legacy every time we go through. That ego need, this is my legacy, my legacy. You know what I'd love my legacy to be? The time when the country was so peaceful that everybody got along. I wouldn't even give a freaking crap if they wrote about it in a history book. That would be enough for me. As a leader, to know that we came to a place where at least most people were heard, most people felt represented. You're never going to please everybody. That's not going to happen. Yet that we didn't have to lie and cover up and just be these people we're not in order to uphold false values. I mean, I would so be the president. Good Lord. I doubt that's going to happen, gang. Yet what I'm saying here is that when we have people stepping up for any job, a job has particular criteria. So when we're looking at this Kavanaugh thing, and we're looking at somebody who, let's just give the guy, just for the podcast, okay? Let's give Kavanaugh the benefit of the doubt. Because like I said, when I look back on that time frame, he was blotto out drunk, drinking tons of mixed types of alcohol. I mean, there's liquor and there's beer and there's like, you know, Di-Serono and sweet gross stuff and heavy whiskeys. And I mean, that's just a blackout soup, okay? Again, I'm not saying it's okay he did what he did, but let's give the guy the benefit of the doubt that he doesn't remember that. What I'm not understanding is in this time frame, why he would not defer to those who were saying, this is what happened. This is what you did. And especially when other people are coming forward going, yeah, that kind of happened like that. To say, no, everybody's ganging up on me. Gang, this is our challenge right now. Where do we look shame in the face and say, you know what, I'm tired of being ruled by you. I'm not going to be ruled by you anymore. I would rather be ostracized and tell the truth than continue to peddle this ideology that doesn't exist and be seen as a powerful individual. Now, we all can be part of healing this shame cycle, okay? Because, I mean, come on, let's be honest. A lot of people love to shame others. See, I told you did this. I told you he did this. She did this. I told you. I mean, come on, gang. What are we, 5? What is that? What is that? Listen, I'm not suggesting I'm a fan of the certain consciousness in this administration presidentially. What I'm saying is that if we're going to get past this, and we're going to get past this old world where this tiny bubble favored a small percentage of people and gave them a completely different reality to live within, and we are now seeing how that reality stacks up against the reality that everybody else has been living in, and how inequitable that is, and how much victimization has come from us as a society granting that small percentage of people those rights to do those things, because that's exactly what's happened here. If we cannot come out of the shaming cycle, we are never going to get out of this tape loop of denial and out of the emperor's new clothes. Because, I mean, we literally have government people saying that none of this is important. It doesn't happen. I keep saying that over and over because I am gobsmacked. I am gobsmacked that there are people who actually would try to downplay this just because they are losing their bubble. They're losing that tiny percentage of bubble. And really, it's about control and it's about power. And it makes me feel sad for all of these people that really feel like they've got nothing unless the system is completely stacked in their favor, unless they can do whatever they want, unless they can victimize whoever they want. They don't know how to be an equitable person who works their way to the top without being this person. And we've got these people all throughout government, and they are on both sides of the aisle. And this particular consciousness is so ingrained in our culture that the only way we break it is to come out of shame. So how would we deal with that? Let's just have a hypothetical discussion. So here's old Kavanaugh, who clearly has done this to these women, okay? I think we all pretty much got that. Moving along, we've got a choice. Do we continue to give someone like Kavanaugh, do we continue to give him death threats and shame him and shame his wife? And do we continue this cycle of victimizing and oppression? Because then we just become the victimizers. Or do we say, wow, man, what the hell happened in college? What was going on with you? You know, did you have an alcohol problem? What was going on? I mean, I don't think we really want you sitting on the court, but let's not tear you to shreds. I mean, what happened to you? And if you were that person and you came through such a huge piece of growth, why don't you share your growth with us? Because there is integrity in doing that. There is leadership in doing that. There is strength in doing that. People respect people who have grown, who have gone through a journey, who weren't always totally shiny and perfect and said, yeah, I was a complete A-hat. I was an ass-hat. I was horrible. And I got myself together. You know, President Obama, before he ran for president, what a smart man. He wrote his book, The Audacity of Hope. And in that, he was disclosing, you know, all of the drug stuff he did and the ornery stuff he did and anything that he did that was problematic as a kid. He went ahead and wrote about it. He put it all out there first so people couldn't unbury it. Because he knew that he had a hard enough time being the first black president, you know, so my God, let's get everything out there. And what this is teaching us in this feminine time frame is that if you are struggling with something that you are just feeling so much shame about in your past, it doesn't mean you have to go and, you know, put it on Facebook and tell everybody in the world that you had a misstep. Yet sit with yourself and talk to yourself about how far you have come. And if that icky thing from your past does come up, you know, own it in the moment. Say, oh my God, this is so painful to hear this. This is so embarrassing. I don't even know what to do. I'm so humiliated hearing this. I hope this would never come back again. But obviously it's here trying to teach me something about me. So I guess I'm going to have to deal with this. And when I was a younger person, I thought that was a good idea because I was dumb and stupid and impressionable and trying to make everybody feel good. but me, because I had no self-esteem. And all I can do is tell you that I have grown since then. I've become a person that really understands when you disrespect yourself by doing things that make you feel terrible, you disrespect others. I mean, that's just an example, right? But sit with yourself and talk to yourself about the things that you're ashamed of. And it doesn't mean you have to tell everybody, gang. It's just that until we can forgive ourselves, and this is the big jazz hands ending here, until we can forgive ourselves for what we are ashamed of in ourselves, for the hypocrisy within each one of us, for the absolutely god-awful crap that we've done as drunk young people, until we can sit with ourselves and make right that situation, either by living your life a different way, or being kind, or maybe paying back the people you stole from, or whatever it is, until we can live in a way that balances the missteps that we had put into the ethers, until we can do that within ourselves, we will seek to run people like Kavanaugh or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or any leader right up the flagpole, because we will need the effigy to burn. We will need the sacrificial lamb for the self-hatred. And that's what's going on. That's what's going on with all of this denial. That's what's going on with all of this emperor's new clothes out here. We are being asked to forgive ourselves, to do what we can do to make right missteps in our life, and to just love ourselves, where that shame moniker is coming up over and over again, and we're being told to basically flog ourselves because that's how we get to heaven. Guilt. Listen, guilt can serve a purpose as long as it leads to resolution. Holding guilt just to hold guilt, gang? Oh man, that's actually living in the past. It's living in a time loop. It's living in a delusion. I mean, to continually feel guilty and not work through that guilt is the worst self-punishment ever. And I'm not saying we shouldn't feel guilty. I'm not saying that we shouldn't sometimes feel a tiny bit ashamed about what we did, yet move through it. The feminine time frame, the great mother, these angels that say, bring me for this to which you are hurting. Think about that sentence. Bring me this. For to which you are hurting. They're literally saying, the way you live your life, if it's hurting you, bring it to me. If you hate yourself, bring it to me. Because I love you. And you are worth so much more than being a walking shrine to everything you've ever done wrong. So until we start to see this in ourselves, we're going to keep ranking on folks like Kavanaugh. And granted, he could save himself a lot of trouble by going into a little accountability here. But like I said, he probably doesn't remember it with as drunk as I see him being. Yet still, with all of his buddies coming forward saying this happened, come on. Even I have a really hard time leaning towards the benefit of the doubt on that one, just because, come on. Especially since we're being asked to be accountable at this time. And Kavanaugh is not the only issue here. Here in Montana, we have our one lone House of Representatives individual, Gianforte. And you probably heard on national news, Gianforte felt pushed and lost his temper and body slammed this reporter and broke his glasses and did all kinds of things. But by the time that was like right before the election happened. And Montana is one of the few states that if you actually send in your absentee ballot, you can't change that ballot. Once it's hit the mail, once the electorate has taken that ballot, Montana's one of the few states that says, nope, you cast your ballot, that's it. Now, I know a lot of very conservative people that were really upset with his behavior and thought he needed the hook, but they couldn't take back their vote. I have very, very conservative friends, and we are best of friends. And those friends are looking at Kavanaugh going, oh my God. And they're listing off all these judges I've never heard of because I don't follow the conservative judge circuit. But they're listing all these people saying, why aren't they picking, this guy or this guy or this guy? I mean, obviously, this is about some big payoff. And I'm so sick of this administration paying itself off. And it is. I mean, it's stupid. There's so many other people they could insert there, except I really, truly believe that we're supposed to be having this discussion about shame and about denial and about living in illusion and about why we have granted such a small population the right to live a different kind of life while we have demanded that the rest of folks live a different life. We the people have put up with this. We the people have fed into this, gang. And I know we don't want to hear that. And I know this is like Tough Love podcast, right? Don't you wish I was just talking about puffy angels today? Yet this is what's coming through the ethers, is until we work on this shame within ourselves, we're going to keep seeing these type of situations with Trump, with Gianforte, who body slammed somebody and then went right on to be in the House of Representatives. We're going to see this over and over again. And there were folks, when Gianforte did what he did, there were women coming forward saying, oh, don't be so hard on the guy. It's just a guy thing. Or, don't be so hard on him. He was probably just having a bad day. And then I look at those women who really mean that. And I look at the quality of partnership they have. And they're in relationships with people who talk poorly to them, treat them like crap, talk down to them. They think it's normal that that's a guy thing. That's not a guy thing. I mean, come on. I know some incredible guys and they're awesome and they're sweet and they can be strong and have a point, but they're not crazy bullies who body slam people. I mean, oh my God, that's the same guy who has a lift kit on his truck. And we all know why guys have lift kits on their trucks. Come on. So really, come on, fellas, you guys are amazing and we love you. And all of you guys out there that are holding a space for the divine masculine during the feminine time frame, you are going to stand out like heroes. You're going to stand out like rock stars. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. If you are holding a space for the divine masculine, you are going to be a hero right now. Because that is how the divine feminine wants to balance out with you. The divine feminine wishes to have balance. And this victimization consciousness, which happened to occur under the masculine time frame, we're just getting that balanced out. So how does that balance in themselves? How do we balance in ourselves? Let us let go of our need to shame ourselves and to run somebody else up the flagpole so we can shame them as well. I mean, our president is a fantastic example of some old soul who signed up to play the goofiest role in history to be run up the flagpole as the biggest fall guy ever for an oligarchical set that's been in power for 30, 40 years. And Trump's just going to jump on an airplane with his family and get the heck out of here anyway. So this whole thing that's happening, he's just a weird player in the middle of all of it. And again, I'm really, really hoping that we can get out there and take some of the judgment out when we're talking about Kavanaugh and deal with why shame pushes us so far that we lie or that we just build these emperor's new clothes fake suits when we're standing there clearly in our underpants. I mean, how afraid do you have to be to do that? You have to be terrified. And there are people who are terrified that they're going to lose that little tiny percentage I was talking about, that they're going to lose their cheat. And then who the hell are they going to be? That, my friends, that is the fear of extinction. And no human being should feel like they are on the extinct list. Nobody should feel like that. So if we can be the ones to bring forward bridges to help cross those barriers of shame so that people no longer feel that they have no value if they are not completely protected in that little bitty bubble, if we can bring people through that veil and show them that they have so much value, not just because they've been given a cheat, but they have value, then they're going to let go of needing to hold on to this fierce illusion. And this world evolves. And it starts with us. It starts with us dealing with our own illusions. And it's tough. Spirituality, we love to think about spirituality as an abstract concept as the feel-goods, as the Holy Spirit, as Jesus, as the uplifting teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. We love to think of it as the peace in nirvana. And that is one aspect of spirituality. The other aspect of spirituality is fierce accountability and dedication to growth. To growth. And that's scary and it's embarrassing. And we've been taught that if we make a mistake, we're ruled out, we're extinct, we're off the team. That is bully modality. That's not true. None of us are perfect. None of us in our spiritual walks are perfectly amazing people. We are who we are, and we bring great value forward. So let's work in not shaming ourselves. Let's work in not just jumping on the shame train. It's so easy to do. When we're standing around the water cooler and you've got now, of course, we've bought into this ridiculous polarization process. And, you're either liberal or you're not, or you're conservative. And we're supposed to fight with each other over that. I don't fight at all. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I will agree to disagree with some folks because our lens is so different and we laugh it off and say, oh God, well, let's just see how it washes out. But to start really getting down the conspiracy holes, to start really being in so much illusion about our world in general, because we just are terrified to come out of our own shame, we can do it. We can do it, everybody. One of the reasons that I'm so passionate about this topic is it's something that comes up on the road. We're at the end of our time here. Yet for those of you who have been on the Ascension Tour, for those of you in Portland, what a great crowd. For those of you in Boulder, what a great crowd. What a great group. We have had amazing groups of people. And on October 6th, I'm heading to Billings, Montana, my good old hometown. So if you haven't gotten your tickets for the Ascension Tour, grab them there. And October 20th, I'm going to be at the Lake Harriet Spiritual Center in Minneapolis. And I am translating information for your area specifically about the future of your area, what you can look forward to, the spiritual strengths that you can pull from the geomagnetic attributes of your area, all kinds of stuff. And it's fascinating to me that every single one of these Ascension Tour stops, the information that comes out is completely different. It's amazing. And then the VIP after parties, for those who purchase the VIP tickets, those conversations become incredible. They just become incredible. In Portland, we were talking all about off-worlders. And in Boulder, it became, when did we learn that we had these great spiritual gifts and who are we with them? I mean, every city is a blessing in erupting consciousness. So if you are out there and you're going to be in Billings or you're going to be in Minneapolis, after that, the November stops are Columbus, Ohio and Reno, Nevada. So really encourage your friends to go, gang, because look. It's not just about getting butts in the seats. Okay. It's not. It's about the more people we have there, the more incredible resonation that we actually create in that room. And it leaves a permanent, indelible mark in that quantum field for peace, for transference, for incredible transformation, and people are changed. I had a gal, it's awe-inspiring. I'm working these events, okay? I'm just the channel. Tour manager Melissa, who comes with me, she's my sister-in-law, but she's also the tour manager. God bless her heart. She's herding cats over there. She comes out, and I hear people telling her incredible things. People told me about the Portland tour, that it was a life-altering event because of the information that was passed through for our times. And this isn't about me, gang. I'm just the chick with the bullhorn, okay? I'm not saying, oh, I'm such a rock star. I'm saying come be part of this incredible energy in this universal healing that is happening with the Ascension Tour. So hop on to ascensiontour.com. If you know folks who are in Minneapolis, Columbus, Ohio, Reno, Nevada, direct them over there. We are changing lives because people are allowing their vibration to shift. They are allowing their DNA to be opened. It's phenomenal. And I'm humbled to just witness it because it comes through me. And I'm very, very clear that I'm not doing this. This is just coming through me. And it's amazing to watch. It is truly amazing to watch. A young woman in Portland at the VIP party, she literally had tears in her eyes. And she said, this is literally the coolest day I've ever experienced in my entire life. Because I had no idea that this kind of feeling was possible. So gang, and again, that has very little to do with me. That has to do with the environment we co-create. It has to do with our incredible angels that come through. I'm just the messenger here. I am the conduit. So this is fantastic. Join me at the Ascension Tour. Get your tickets at ascensiontour.com. And when you see the news, when you see old Kavanaugh up there doing his thing and all these women coming forward, and it's so hard for them. Well, we didn't even talk about how hard it is for them to come forward with their own shame and to own it. What we're seeing there, and this is the wraparound, is that these women are coming forward facing their shame. And they are owning their shame, and they are sitting in accountability with their shame, yet they are still coming forward. And the energies are supporting that because A, it's true, and B, it's the feminine time frame where if we just come forward with that which we are ashamed of, there is so much compassion. There is so much healing, gang. Remember to be the most compassionate version of yourself, okay? You are amazing. You're full of miracles. I love this podcast. I love this tour. And I've got some very exciting news coming up in October, but I'm going to wait till October to really spring that on you guys because it's really, really cool. But I'll just drop this out there. I'm traveling to Los Angeles in the middle of the tour for something. So I'm very excited about that, everybody. Lots of love to you. Be compassionate stewards, and I will see you next week.